What's happening, Wargamers? Welcome to another episode of the Dossier, where we share some potato opinions on your new and favorite characters of the game. And we are working into our Marvel Crisis Protocol Core Box 2.0 series of this one. So starting off with the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Captain America, First Avenger, Steve Rogers. I'm joined today by Jason from Zetrox Wargaming.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I figured we're going to talk some Avengers, get somebody who actually plays Avengers and kind of knows what they're doing here.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far.
You know more about Avengers than I do, okay? So yeah, it's been a little while since we've done the dossier, but as we always like to start off with, let's take a quick peek at this model. And I'm going to gush for a second because I absolutely love this model.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a very, very simple pose, but it's very nice. It's very well executed. It feels
very
like Steve Rogers.
Yeah,
yes.
It's very Captain America, very Steve Rogers. It's very reminiscent of the scene at the end of Endgame, where he's just standing off against Thanos.
Well, I know you've been talking about cutting the shield in half and getting the second one going.
I want another one so I can do that conversion because it's just perfect. One comment I will have, and this isn't so much a criticism, but one comment, and everyone's noticed this, it's very Rob Liefeld. Or Liefeld, like at this point, like he's got that sort of barrel chest and everything like that. Yeah. I mean, he has feet, so I mean that's a step up right there. But still, it is a great model. The art really inspired the paint job for it as well, because like I love those little darker patches on the inseams.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Just really nice there. And just all in all, great model. Like I really do. I've liked every version of Steve that we've had come out.
I think they all look great.
And I don't know if I like this one more than Steve Rogers, Captain America, Steve Rogers.
Oh, like the Shield one?
Yeah, but like this is still a fantastic model. From an assembly perspective, very easy to put together. AMG's really up their game on design.
Glad to hear it.
Which is really kind of cool. No weird pieces. Still got the heroic rock here, like the tactical rock.
I think that's like an AMG trademark. There's so few models that don't have something like that on their base.
Or tactical explosions, as I like to call them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Steve is great. Like, so very solid model. But you guys want to hear about the cards. So Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit about his main stat line here?
Yeah, so Captain America, First Avenger, he's rocking 443 for his defense line with 6 health, so nothing too out of the ordinary for a 4 threat there. He's, of course, a 4 threat. He's size 2 with a medium move. He's got 2 attacks. The first one is a Builder Shield Bounce, so it's going to be a range 3 5 dicer. It's going to gain him power equal to the damage that he deals, and on a wild hit, he's going to bounce it. So it's an additional shield bounce attack against a target within 3 of the original target, and of course it can't bounce again.
Now, sadly, there is no ignoring line of sight and cover.
Yes,
like
as I recently learned the hard way.
And isn't shield throw range 4?
So shield throw is range 4, ignores line of sight and cover. It's usually a gainer, and then the ricochet is usually just a single wild instead of a wild
so it's a little bit more aggressive on this one. Being a builder, it's kind of nice. It's still 5 dice, which is really cool. But yeah, it's a solid attack, solid builder for her. And then we got Brooklyn Brawler, so he's got another physical attack, range 3, 5 dice, 4 power. The cool thing about this one though is you're adding dice to the attack roll equal to the target size. So it's giving him an ability to go up against like the big beefier guys like Hulk or Malekith or something like that. He's got a critical push, which is size 3 or less, push him away short. And then with Frontliner, Wild Hit, and Shield, can make an additional Brooklyn Brawler attack without having to pay for the cost. Just has to target a different character. So that one is at range 3. It's not going to be so hard to get that additional target in there, but it's a really nice touch getting that sort of action economy.
For sure.
Yeah, so I really like Brooklyn Brawler. I'm not going to lie. I'm quite a fan of it.
No, I think it's quite good.
You want to tell us about the leadership?
Yeah, so he has Earth's Mightiest Heroes leadership, and of course it's for the Avengers. Once per turn, when an allied character is attacking, during the modified dice step, if there are 1 or more hit results in the attack roll, they can spend 1 power. If they do, they're going to change one of their other dice to any other result, so that can help you get wild triggers, crit triggers, crazy 3-symbol triggers.
It is consistency through and through.
It's so good, and I mean, it really helps him himself because of his triggers, as I already mentioned on the shield, being a little bit harder to get than the usual ricochet.
Yeah, and like giving that sort of consistency to your whole team, I mean, that is Steve Rogers in a nutshell.
Iron Man's going to push every time. Any other models that have pushes, staggers, throws.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. He's got a 2-power charge, which I love. I mean, it's always great to see that. And then as we're used to seeing, he's got his perfect block.
And it's even better here because he can do it on Mystic.
Yeah, much to my chagrin. I learned that in a game we played, and that was a little annoying. His injured side, not a lot of changes on it. His stamina goes down to 5 from 6. And then he has I can do this all day.
Trademark.
Yeah, so now he's adding blanks to everything as well, so he just becomes very tanky, very durable.
With the perfect block, that is a 6/6/5 counting blanks defensive line, which is absurd.
It's really absurd. But I mean, it's Steve. He feels in what we've played with him, he feels more durable than old Steve, in my opinion, which is kind of nice. He felt better all around.
Against Mystic, he's definitely the tankier one.
Yeah. So all in all, great card and whatnot. And we're gonna talk about where we think he might go in a little bit. He has 2 cards that come with the new core box that he can make use of. Let's talk about Repulsor Refraction first.
Yeah. So this card specifically with the new Iron Man and the new Cap, you can't use it on the old versions of them. But basically, during Iron Man's turn, if he's within 4 of Cap, they can each spend 1, and Iron Man immediately gets to make I believe it's Beam 4,
yeah.
5 dice attack from Captain America.
And the interesting thing about this, and I suspect it's going to end up on the rules form for clarification, is that it does not appear that this takes an action.
Yep, which is actually kind of a big deal. It can mean you potentially get 3 attacks with Iron Man on turn.
Which, I mean, kind of rude. It's turning into not quite rocket levels of shenanigans, but it's a little rude. So yeah, really, really cool little card there. And then we have Battle Plan here, which is an unaffiliated active card. Oh, I just noticed something.
Yep.
Active action.
Oh, it's an action.
It is an action. They've changed the formatting a little bit.
They have. That's new.
So there we go. Active action. So that does not need to go in the rules form. All right. So only 2 attacks still.
Yeah.
Anyway, Battle Plan. Unaffiliated, active. During Steve Rogers' activation, spend 3 power. And then Steve Rogers and each allied character within 3 may choose one of the following effects. Remove a special condition, remove 1 power, or be placed within one of their current position. Jason, I've heard you talk about this card a lot.
I love this card. I'm going to use it with the new Steve, of course, because it's got the same thing, but I'm also going to be using this all the time with the old Steve. It's just such a good card to deal with something that Avengers doesn't really have, which is condition removal. And also being able to
bump in the night?
Bump things range 1. Yes, please, sign me up for that.
Yeah.
I think this card is really, really good. It is a little pricey, and it does have to be during Steve's activation, so it's not without its downsides, but it's going to be played a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I think without the consistency of the shield throw gainer, it's going to be hard to always justify this card. But I think this makes your 10 if you're bringing a Steve Rogers.
Yeah, if you're bringing any of the Steve Rogers, I think it's worth having the card in the 10. And I think if you're bringing old Steve from the first core box, you're always bringing the card.
I think that's worthwhile. Yeah, because old Steve really just spends power on blocking anyway, right? Bodyguard.
Blocking and bodyguarding.
Yeah, so definitely a great card. So yeah, let's talk about outside of his main affiliation. Where do you kind of see Steve?
So that's an interesting one because I do think he's very, very reliant on his leadership to get his triggers. So I think places he might be viable outside of that would be other leaders who have similar things like New MODOK. And I think there's another one. Is it M'Baku that has a similar thing?
M'Baku has you get a roll a wild and change. Roll a wild and change one of your results to a hit.
Yeah. So while those aren't quite as consistent as Steve's in terms of getting the triggers, they will still help if you roll a wild on your attack, but you didn't get the hit. You'll be able to get the bounce. So I think there might be play there.
I think you're right. Anywhere where he has any sort of like dice manipulation is kind of where he wants to be. And if he's not the leader, he's not going to be as targeted.
True.
Which I think is kind of a big deal for Steve as well.
And he is going to be absurdly bulky on the flip side. I mean, the front side he'll still go down pretty fast, but on the flip, that's an insane defensive line.
Yeah, you pair him, like there's a lot of other factions you can pair him into, and he can do some interesting things. I think there's some interesting playing in humans for him as well, if you really want to.
Yeah, I could see that.
The downside is he no longer has his bodyguard, which is unfortunate. But I mean, if you can just feed him power, and he can hold a flank on his own pretty easily.
Well, and he can be a good answer. If your list doesn't really have something to deal with like a Malekith or something like that, you can throw him in because that Brooklyn Brawler will still be, I think, a 9 dice attack against those types of models.
Yep.
So he can be good to try and help you deal with those.
10 dice versus Sentinels.
Yeah. 10 dice on Sentinels. And then on top of that, because he's such a bulky model, especially on the flip side, and again, specifically against things like Malekith, he's going to be relatively hard for Malekith to deal with because he's going to ignore that Pierce and he's going to be throwing all these dice.
Yeah, he's actually a great model to throw at Malekith because he basically just gets so much extra defensive tech against him. So yeah, I could see you trying to just kind of jam him down Malekith's throat and basically say, hey, come play with me or let me just do whatever I'm going to do, right?
So yeah, I think for that reason you can kind of slot him in, not necessarily anywhere, but that's a reason to bring him anywhere.
I think Sacrifice is going to be a card that you see a lot with him as well.
For sure. I mean, he's okay with taking a hit.
Oh yeah, no, he's totally fine with it. But yeah, so that is Captain America First Avenger Steve Rogers. Great start to the Core Box 2.0. Very excited to get more of them. If you want to see him in action, there is going to be a battle report that you can view on the channel that has him in action. Of course, he's going to be making appearances in a bunch of following ones. Jason, I want to say thank you for coming out and doing this with me.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna probably chat about a couple more here to get the series rolling. And of course, if you want to support the channel, patreon.com/AegisBrand Studios. And thank you so much to AMG for providing this early copy of the Core Box 2.0, so we can get this sort of content out to you. And thank you guys so much for watching. Happy wargaming.